Howdy, howdy, howdy. We are live. Nice to see you today. So happy to be here. We're doing an impromptu live, jumping in here today because there's a lot of transitions going on in the world right now. And I thought it'd be a good time to talk about it. So I'm just jumping onto our YouTube channel. Come on in if you're around. Love to have you here. I'm going to dive in and share a handout with you. I see people jumping in. Welcome, welcome. I'm Carolyn J. Carpenter. If you don't know me, we're on our YouTube channel right now talking about transitions. I even have a handout. I have all the things. I'm very excited. Let me share that with you so you can take a look. We talk about reading and analyzing screenplays here at Hollywood Gatekeepers. That's what we are all about. We read a screenplay, we analyze it, we help writers rewrite screenplays, we help producers rewrite screenplays. We are all about the rewriting, analyzing part of writing screenplays. We also teach how to write screenplays as well, but we always, even when we're teaching how to write screenplays, we're talking about writing screenplays from a reader's perspective. So hello, I'm glad, but yay for handouts. I'm glad that you're here. Let me put the link up to that because today we are talking about transitions. So we're going to talk about, like we always do, I am also a certified life coach. I've read over 11,000 screenplays. I've worked in the industry for a really long time reading and analyzing screenplays. I'm also a licensed and certified life coach. And so one of the things we also do in our programs is we talk about how life mimics art and how screenplays are better when we have a handle on our lives as well. So within our programs, we've been talking about transitions this month. So I thought I would share a little bit about the rewriting process and how when you are rewriting a screenplay, just like when you're rewriting your life, how focusing on transitions can be a way that you can really make a screenplay so much better, and you can really make your life better as well. And so we're going to hop back and forth. I put this together myself just with what I've learned from analyzing screenplays and reading so many screenplays, as well as what I've learned as a life coach, working with clients, helping people, loving seeing you guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So nice to see all y'all here. And so as we approach helping a writer rewrite a screenplay as a reader, or as we're reading for a producer and a screenplay comes in and it needs some work, and sometimes they'll work on it in development and then they'll have us read it again and we can give comments. Sometimes we work directly with writers, so we're giving them advice and we're helping them with that page one rewrite maybe. And then also as readers, we make our own schedule, we make our own life, we read when we want to, like all of it, we are managing our life. You're working with a lot of different types of people. You're working with very creative people, often people that have very healthy egos, because in order to trust that you can make a movie, boy, it takes a lot of gumption, takes a lot of all of that. And so that can be hard to manage sometimes when you have a lot of people that are very creative, very smart, very driven. And so the more you can learn how to manage your life, the easier it will be for you to have a career as a screen reader, helping people with screenplays. So I'm glad to see some names I don't recognize. Really good to see you guys here. So if you have questions along the way, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm just going to kind of dive in and compare when you're looking at a screenplay and then when you're looking at, your life as well. So I'm going to go through this handout. There's a link there that you can download the handout. You can take a look at it and you can use this and, post it up on your wall and use it as you go through your screenplay and then see how it mimics your life as well. Can be very, very interesting. So when we look at transitions in a screenplay, I kind of put down the beats of when are the major transitions. Now, every scene in a screenplay typically has some kind of transition. That's called turning the scene. Something should happen within that scene. Someone goes through some kind of sometimes major transformation within every scene. If nothing happens in the scene, it can be cut. So that's why we want to look at every single scene and how does it turn and what is the transition in the scene. And then also within the story, there'll be more major transitions, and those scenes, some of the scenes will be a big part of that. And so there'll be one scene that has a major transition, but there are bigger beats. And so some films have what's known as a cold opening, meaning we get kind of a glimpse of what the danger will be. Like the shark eating someone in Jaws is a cold opening. I think a kind of a better example of a true cold opening is Get Out, where we see the person get kidnapped, and then the next scene it's like la la la, we're in a totally different place. Same is true in Jaws, where she gets eaten by the shark, and then we're at this lovely village, and we all know something terrible happened, right? So that's a cold opening. It's a way to pull an audience in, let them see this is what this is about, let them see what's happening, and then we're going to cut to our protagonist and get our story started. So very common way to kind of pull audiences in. And so when we look at our lives, what is your cold opening? Meaning, like, what is the circumstance kind of where something might feel like you're not in control of it, where it's like something that's sort of new that comes into your life, or sometimes a transition that's thrust upon us, where we get into a car accident or something happens. And so we have these transitions in our life. And so the next one inside of a screenplay is then, we have this opening, and then sometimes we'll ease into, we won't have a cold opening, and you'll just begin with the protagonist world, and we'll start to kind of see who the protagonist is. I use Shrek a lot because it's a really, really beautifully structured film. It was also written by readers, so I have a soft spot for it. But that cold opening for Shrek is basically just the song and seeing his life, but it's also his protagonist world. So it's a little bit different, right? But it does, we have the song, we have him, the cold opening actually is him reading the book, which is a beautiful opening to Shrek, where he reads a fairy tale story, and then he says that's ever going to happen. And then he tears the book and he's in the outhouse. And it's like, this is how he uses the book for toilet paper. That's how much he believes in fairy tales, right? So really great way to introduce our protagonists, what their beliefs are, what's happening. And so we'll have that world that's introduced to a protagonist. And then something happens. Someone gets married, someone gets divorced, there's an earthquake, there's a blah, blah, blah. Something happens. That is known as the inciting incident. Now, I'm going through these very quickly. So I recommend that you kind of study each one of these. But as you go through a screenplay, these are kind of the major beats. And so that inciting incident will call to action our protagonist. Something happens in the protagonist's world, and they need to react to it. And so that call to action, for in Shrek's case, the fairy tale creatures invade his land. And so he's called to action because he doesn't want that. So he needs to make a move, right? And then that call to action will lead the protagonist down a path that then takes them into Act 2. Stories are written in 3-act structures in general. And so they'll go into Act 2. He goes to Farquaad. He says, I don't want these creatures here. What can I do? Farquaad says, I'll make you a deal. You'll get the princess. And then, I'll get those creatures out of your land. He's like, deal. He steps out on the road into Act 2 to go rescue the princess. And then we start seeing, other things happen. Sometimes, like in this case, the villain is introduced. Farquaad is introduced before that, so we know who Farquaad is when he meets him. Sometimes not. Sometimes the villain is introduced later. So it's like it depends. But within Act 2 is when we really get to know that villain. We get supporting characters. Donkey, who in my opinion is one of the most well-written supporting characters, the greatest sidekick ever. So loves Shrek, will do anything for Shrek, and yet has his own kind of agenda. Really, really interesting, right? They go in Shrek, they immediately go, they get the princess. Literally halfway through the movie, they're at the midpoint, they rescue the princess. And then everything shifts again. So we'll go that far inside of a screenplay. Now let's switch over to your life. I love doing this. It's so much fun. So they go and they get the princess, right? They're literally going across the screen one way. They get the princess. The second half of the movie, they're going across the screen this way. Like it's literally like, a midpoint, and we turn. Something turns halfway through. So in your life, think of a circumstance that you have in your life that you're struggling with or that you love. Like, it can be many, many things. It can be new relationships, new jobs, moving, having children, getting married, whatever. You have an inciting incident, right? So something happens. You have your circumstance. You're like seeing an opportunity, maybe. You coming to this could be an inciting incident. This session right now could actually trigger something in you that makes you go, oh, wait a minute. And then you'll start down a path, right? You are the protagonist in your story. So when you look at your life and you look at what your circumstances are, what we desire is typically reflected in our circumstance. So in Shrek's case in the movie, his desire is to be alone. So his circumstance is he's alone, like he lives in the swamp alone because that's his desire. we might not realize that the things that we desire or the things that we unconsciously think we deserve, it does reflect our circumstance. We make choices along the way based on this kind of thing that we're talking about today. So we make choices that then manifest into results that then we end up being in our circumstance. And again, sometimes things happen that we don't expect. Sometimes, the world changes, things like that. But in general, in our daily life, it's when you look around your surroundings right now, you made choices and you can think of what they are immediately, and they come to you as to why you are exactly where you are, why you live where you live, who you're with, all the things, right? So you might see an opportunity in some way. We love creating opportunities in these programs. That's what we're all about. And so we want you to see an opportunity because we want to help you up-level your screenplay and your life. And so you might see that opportunity and then take an action towards it, like showing up here today, like watching this training, like writing your screenplay, whatever it might be. And so then you kind of settle into your decision, just like Shrek meets, starts going down, I'm going to go on this path, right? You get into your act 2, so to speak, and then you start meeting people who don't support you, the villains of your life, and people that do support you, your sidekicks. So it's like when you start to look at people in your life, and sometimes you can see how if you start looking at it like a story, you might discover that you might be villainizing people who maybe earn that or don't earn that, people that you want in your life that you don't want in your life, starting to really see like who's supporting you, who's not supporting you, who's an obstacle. And then in stories too, like in The Wizard of Oz, you'll have the villain, which is the Wicked Witch, but you have the wizard who's an obstacle. Like he does not help Dorothy. He makes it much harder. And so it's like you have this in your life as well. You have people that really make things hard. Most of the time, from all the coaching that I've done, when someone is making your life hard, it's not really the person that's making your life hard. It's your thoughts about that person that's making your life hard. Sorry. But often it's about how we're thinking of those people. And then what choices are we making to maintain the relationships, keep them in our lives, not keep them in our lives. When we start to really know what we want, we start to focus and go down this path. People that don't support that path might start to fall away, and that could be an okay thing for both of you. They could be equally as frustrated. So being able to kind of know like who are the people and what is the support system that you have built around you. So as Shrek gets to the middle of the movie and he picks up the princess, you'll get to, when you start something new, typically we get to a point, and they call this in business the valley of despair. I absolutely love this concept. Very similar to the midpoint. In many movies, the midpoint is not a good thing. It's something terrible happens and people have to deal with it, but there's a shift of some kind in the middle of a movie. And it's also sometimes known as the fork in the road. So people have to make a decision. Often when we first start something, we have this inciting incident. We're all excited. We go down this path. We're telling our friends. We're starting to learn who supports us, who doesn't support us. And then suddenly it's like, oh, now it's getting hard. We get to a point where it starts to get hard. And so when that happens, we can easily get distracted. Suddenly it's like, oh, I want to write this thing. Oh, maybe I should go do that instead. Oh, maybe I'll go make this movie. Oh, maybe I'll do, you start to get off track with the original thing you said you were going to do because it's gotten hard. And a lot of people get stuck there, never to return. They start something new because it's inciting. It's exciting, inciting incident. They go, it starts to get hard. They start something new. So if you have if you open your drawer and you have like a million projects in there, or if you scroll through your laptop and it's like, oh, I have all these things that I started and didn't finish. This is kind of probably what's happening, is you're getting to the valley of despair point. Now, realizing that that's a thing and that's a pattern, that means that you can change it. That means that you can be aware, oh, I'm just in the valley of despair. I just need to keep on trekking. I just need to find a ladder. Just like, they have all kinds of obstacles on the way back. Shrek falls in love. Huge obstacle in the life that he thought he wanted. He wants to be alone. You can't fall in love and have a partner if you want to be alone. So it becomes this dilemma, right? And this is what will happen as things start to get hard because it's something new. It's very easy to get distracted. And then in many cases, we get to what is known as all is lost in a movie as well. It can also be called the point of no return. Sometimes these are just called plot point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have all kinds of names, but I like the kind of more fun visual names, right? So all is lost. And that's when the Shrek can't confess his love. He misunderstands some things. He's too chicken, even though he's a big old bad ogre. He can't confess his love. And she leaves and she's like, fine, I'm going to go marry Farquaad. All is lost. Oh no, I lost the princess forever. He goes in, and that's it. Who comes to his rescue? Donkey, sidekick. Great sidekick goes, wait a minute, we forgive each other. What are you doing? You're crazy. And Donkey calls on Dragon, which is so beautiful. Dragon comes in, they go, they fly, he rescues the princess, and the dragon literally eats the villain. So it's like this really great combination of sidekicks coming together to rescue the princess. So, but in that all is lost moment, he's done. And we get to that sometimes, and that's when we quit. So the first kind of sign is when you get distracted, and you start getting distracted, and then pretty soon time goes by and you haven't ever done the thing that you want to do, and sometimes it never gets done. And so that can be part of our valley of despair, and that can be part of our story as a protagonist, but it doesn't have to be. We have the capacity of being able to change that. We can either repeat the pattern over and over again that gets us to that place, or we can find ways to overcome it by doing things like coming to this training and learning and being aware and seeing our own patterns and starting. We'll get to kind of things that you can do in a moment. So then there becomes the resolution, dance party in the swamp, and those are the beats. So those are the transitions of a screenplay. So when you're rewriting a screenplay with someone, and you read the screenplay and it's falling flat, you're not quite sure exactly what might be wrong with it, that's what you look for. Start first with the transitions. See, like, how are these transitions? Are they clear? Can I tell what the inciting incident is? Is the midpoint obvious? Can we see structurally what's happening here? And then in every scene, is the scene turning? What's going on? So here's the questions that you can ask as you go through this, right? So in a screenplay, you're going to ask, like, what does the protagonist want? Shrek wants to be alone. He wants his people out of his land, the creatures out of his land, so that he can be alone. And then what in the world is reflecting that protagonist's need? He's very much alone. He's got signs. He's like, I'm very much alone. His desire is very much reflected in how he lives. And so what is the obstacle? The inciting incident, fairy tale creatures, they invade his land because they've been kicked out of somewhere. And so he reacts by going to Farquaad and making the deal, right? And then how do others react around him? Donkey's like, I'm in, let's do it, right? The princess is like, oh, you finally came and found me. And then her whole world is turned upside down, right? And so we have Donkey in there so that we can see the softer side of Shrek, so that we can believe that a princess would fall in love with an ogre. She has her own secret that makes it easier to believe, but we need to see like what's charming about him. He is Prince Charming after all in her world, right? So what actions does the protagonist take? He's very, very active, right? He goes and he, fights the dragon. Like, he's very, very active. So these actions then turn each scene. Everything that he does is going to the next thing, On the way home, he's doing the same thing. He's just starting to get tripped up because he's falling in love with her. And then he overhears her talking what he thinks is about him. She's really talking about herself. And so he gets, hurt, and then he doesn't know how to handle it. So, but every scene, something happens and turns. In every scene, there's a transition. And so what is the turn in each scene, and what is the turn in each transition? What is the thing that happens? These are the questions that you can ask. And when you look at a screenplay and it's not quite working, when you ask these questions, the answers will come, and you'll be able, oh, that's what's missing. You'll be able to see, oh, these scenes aren't turning. They're repetitive. They're doing the same thing. Very, very common. Scene does same thing over and over. A lot of times it'll be different characters, but one character is saying what happened to someone in the scene before that. So we just saw it happen, and then a character is telling another character about what just happened. So that scene means nothing because we've already seen it. So that kind of thing will be very common, and you'll be able to see it. So when you look at your life and you're stuck in a rut and you're not getting the results that you want, kind of look around yourself, like we talked about. What do you desire? What is the desire that you have? What is your big reach goal? If you're here and you're here right now, like if you're in our world, Hollywood Gatekeepers world, you're already reaching. If you're here watching this, big time, you are reaching for the thing. And so what is the thing that you desire? And how does your circumstance, how is it reflecting that desire? Is it full of obstacles, or is it kind of moving forward? And then what do you think about that? So we sometimes have a tendency to think that something is, that something is a circumstance. I have my water here. We tend to think that something is a circumstance. It's really a thought. So we might think, I'm stuck in this job. Well, that's not true. That's a thought, that I'm stuck in this job. You have a job, That we can agree on. That is the circumstance. The circumstance is neither good nor bad. It is neutral. So when you can say, I have a job, then you can realize that the thought, I'm stuck in a job, doesn't really serve you. So you can start looking at how are you thinking about your circumstances. When you feel stuck and when you're starting to blame things, what are the things that you're saying to yourself or others sometimes? Like, what are the things you're saying about it? Because then that will get you to understand how you're looking at it. And that thought will make you feel something. So if you have the thought, I'm stuck in this job, you're going to feel that doesn't feel very good. Like, feel maybe defeated, angry, hopeless, a lot of different feelings. And when you feel those feelings, you'll take an action from that place. So when we feel defeated, what do? We sloth through a job. We don't like it there. We don't interact. We show up. We kind of don't do a great job because we don't like this job. We're stuck here anyway. These are the thoughts that we're having. This is the way. And what kind of employee is that? So when you show up to a job like that, what kind of things will be reflected back to you? Oh, there's so-and-so again. They really I'm not going to give them that project because, who wants to work with that person? And that will start to really reflect. You'll start to reflect back the thought that you're having. If you feel stuck in your job, you're going to get more stuck in your job. Our brains are amazing. We have what's known as the reticular activating system, where we look for the things to back up our thoughts. We want to point to, see, we want to say see, I told you, that's the way it is. But really, it's just our thought about it, and we're looking for the evidence of it. So when you come from a place that is a thought, if you think, okay, this job is temporary, I'm going to learn a lot from this job that I can use when I do have my career that I want to do. I'm going to learn everything I possibly can in this business about this business, because whatever I learn here, I'm going to use later. Because most of the time, anything you learn, you can then apply. So, and then you're showing up curious as opposed to tired. And so when you show up curious and you start asking questions, people start promoting you, people start giving you raises, people start giving you more things. So when you're coming at it with a different thought about it, you're going to behave differently, and then you'll get different results. And then it might be that you end up liking your job, or you end up just having more experiences that then you can apply to the thing that you actually want to do. So really kind of using your job we've talked about this a lot in our programs, as your first investor. That job is just supporting you so that you can do the thing that you want to do. Be very grateful for that position that's keeping you secure so that you can play, and being able to see the results you're getting. So you see how they interact, like when you are the protagonist in your story, whatever that protagonist wants is driving them forward. And the results that they're getting are based on those actions, just like in your life. Your actions get you results. If you don't like the results that you're getting, what are the actions you're taking or not taking? And if you're not taking certain actions, what can you do? What can you tell yourself to get yourself to start taking better actions? And if you're not taking actions, look at how you're feeling. And how you're feeling is dictating how you're behaving. And how you're feeling is based on what you're thinking. So we're working our way back up the scale, right? And how you're thinking is all the things that create your circumstance. And so it's when you start to be aware of this, your life will drastically change. So as you're looking at a screenplay and you're helping someone write a screenplay, and I don't know if you have questions, I'm kind of focusing in, but I'll take a look in a moment. So as you're looking at a screenplay, one, you need to know those beats. You need to be educated. It's what we teach in our screen reader system. You need to be educated about what are the beats of a screenplay, what are they, and be very, very clear on how all of those beats work, what are the ins and outs of all of those things. And there's also a difference as a reader when you're working with a writer versus working with a producer. We call that the inside-outside technique. Writers tend to be very internal, right? It's their story. It came from their heart, their soul, their pain, and they've put it all on the page. They're very internal about the process. Producers are like, how do I sell this thing? Like, who's going to watch it? What's the audience? They're very external. So inside outside technique, right? And you're in there in the middle being the reader, whatever side you're on, but your understanding of that is going to make your coverage different, is going to make your experience different. So you need to know how to write coverage. You need to know the beats of a story. You need to look for those patterns that we talked about. You need to look for patterns of transitions. Are they working or not working? See if there's a pattern in the screenplay of things being repetitive, or a pattern where every time the protagonist gets, to a point where it's kind of interesting, sometimes they get blocked by something. This is also common in young writers, where they can't quite go there. Like they feel there's something, and that is because they haven't done the other side of the page, right? Because they haven't dealt with their lives. So they can't quite get as raw as they need to get on the page. And you can help them with that because you'll have an understanding of transitions in your life and transitions on the page. You see how it goes together? So as much as we want to know screenplay structure and help people, we also want to know our lives, because we'll be able to be even better at it as someone that can analyze a life and analyze a screenplay. So we want to look for those patterns, and we want to identify the character's values. When we argue with someone, it might seem like we're arguing about one thing, but really what we're arguing about is a differing of values. So for example, if we're fighting about money, we're really fighting about one person wanting security typically, and one person wanting freedom. You never save your money. You're always blah, blah, blah. You're holding me back, and I want to get this thing. I want that freedom. I want that thing. We need to be secure, secure, secure. So it's like we're fighting different values. So when you're in an argument with someone, start to think to yourself, like, what am I valuing right now? Why is this so important to me? What value is it tapping into? We all say that we have certain values. If I ask you, what are the values you live by? You're going to rattle off a few. It might be security. It could be freedom, joy, play. There's all kinds of things that we have as a value. If you want to actually know what your values are, look at what you do every day. Because we might say like we value family, but then we work 24/7. And we could even couch that as being like, I work 24/7 to provide for my family. But most people that work like that, once the family's provided for, they still continue working because they value something in that job. And so it is like really understanding what you actually value and then what it is you would like to value. If you value being creative and working on a screenplay, but you're not actually writing, there's a different value that's trumping it, that's getting in there. And that's okay. It's all fine. It's just being aware of it. So you can say, oh, wait a minute, clearly I value this more than that. And that's okay. But once you realize it, then you can start going, okay, what can I do? What changes can I make to actually walk the walk of the value I want to have? And when we understand that, and we have two characters in a screenplay, we can give them values, and then the dialogue will write itself if we know what the characters' values are. Right. And so when you look at Facebook posts, I love doing this, like looking at people arguing on Facebook, the values are just so front and center of what people value. And this is why people are at odds with each other, because they're valuing things in a different way. And how they value something is manifesting in a different way too. We might both value family, but what one person thinks of as valuing family and another person thinks of as valuing family could be very, very different. It's kind of like the love languages, which I won't go too far into, but it's absolutely beautiful, where we have different ways that we show our love for each other. And we don't understand when someone doesn't value the way that we value. So it's really interesting when you can start looking at that in yourself and looking at that on the page. And the more we can do that, the more our characters will be human, regardless of, if it's a dancing toothpick, it'll still reflect the human condition, and they'll be authentic. And that's what makes a really good screenplay, is that it's universal. And I don't mean like it's this, all the screenplays are the same, but it's universal in a way that people can understand it. They understand what you're doing, what you're getting across. And then it's authentic. We relate to it. It talks about the human condition. And with AI and all the stories that are coming from AI, this is becoming even more important. And then you love your characters, whether they're terrible, you just love the characters, fall in love with all of the characters. The more you can understand them, the more you can give them values. Another thing that makes Shrek so great is we see Farquaad's values so well, and it becomes funny because he's actually pretty vulnerable. So we see his values, and he's awful at the same time. And then the dragon, beautiful, great twist. You're a girl dragon, such a good twist. And then she falls in love, and she's willing to do anything for Donkey, even though we don't have a ton of backstory. They didn't go down her childhood. Like all we did was see her be sad when he left and see her pining away at the riverside. That's all we needed. And a lot of screenplays will go down huge paths, so we make sure we understand, and then it gets really boring. So it's like, how can we love our characters and just get them across in one or two little scenes, right? And so when you are in your life and you're managing any kind of transition, first of all, accepting the cycle. Surrender is a far easier way to manage change than any kind of fighting it, or I'm going to power through, or I'm going to control, or I'm going to do all these things, the more you can surrender to the change, you can surrender to any of the feelings, you can be grateful, look around you. There's always something to be grateful for. If you're here right now, you have a million things to be grateful for. This is a luxury. Being able to talk about screenplays, we're so fortunate. So right there, I'm going to give you that one. And then if you're feeling like that's not it, I mean, just being able to breathe the air, take deep breaths. So you can get they don't have to be big old things. Just living in the space where you're looking every day for things that you're grateful for, that's going to change how you show up. It's going to change, again, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and your results. And so also looking at what patterns do you have? And we've been talking a lot about this month in our programs, like what patterns do you have? How do you relate to, when you get mad, how do you typically react? Starting to really understand your own behavior and what are the thoughts you typically think? What are the things? I was with a client working with her, and we realized that she had a tendency to say about everyone, who do you think you are? And she was very, at first, clear that it was a thought she had about this person. And then a few sessions later, we're talking about another thing, and she had that same thought. And I, of course, as her coach, I immediately recognized it. We had another session, she had that same thought. So I was able to point out, are you seeing that this thought is a thought that doesn't serve you and is a thought you are often having? And it's a very debilitating thought of who do you think you are? Because it's a way of giving your power to that person. Even though it's kind of defiant, it has a thing about it of unworthiness, of like, you're trying to show them that you're more than who they are, kind of thing. And so it's like it has such an empty promise to it. And it was like, I mean, her face, it was so great because it just opened up this idea of like, oh, so now she knows this is a pattern. When she feels that feeling and when she has that thought, she can go, okay, how am I feeling? And in that moment, typically she's feeling really vulnerable or defensive. And she can start to then go, okay, how can I react in a different way, right? Starting to understand your values, identify them, identify the values of the people in your life. You'll start to love them more when you do that. And then find ways to soothe and love yourself. Just like you want to love all your characters, you want to love yourself through it all. You want to see your patterns and see how all the things that you've done have given you 100% survival rate. We're here right now doing the thing. And so all of that is how we get through our lives. So even if you want to change it, it has served you in some way, any pattern that you want to change. And you might also discover there are patterns about you that are pretty dang awesome. And you can be like, that's pretty cool that I do that thing. It's pretty great that this is how I respond to stuff. It's pretty, you can start like, give yourself some kudos, give yourself some love, find ways to soothe yourself, to go for walks, to go out into nature, to write. That's your superpower as a writer. You can go through so many things and find ways to love yourself through all the transitions. So I just thought this was a really interesting way to look at transitions, to look at writing. And we have several programs right now where we are talking about these things. If you want to learn more, we are doing on January. It's July right now. Maybe you're watching this in January, and maybe in January we'll do it again. I don't know. But right now it is currently July. And on July 29th, we are doing a live session. And you can find out about that session at hollywoodgatekeepers.com/reboot. We are rebooting ourselves. We'll talk about transitions there. You'll see that when you go to register for that, there is a pre-training. We already did one day of it. You can watch that. And then we're going to dive into creating your 30, 60, 90-day plan. Very exciting. So we're doing that on the 29th. If you want to join that, you can. hollywoodgatekeepers.com/reboot. If you are a current member of Insider Track, you have access to that. You should be getting emails about that. If not, I think it's $37 if you want to join us. But definitely come to Reboot Day. It's going to be really fun. Part 2, Reboot Day Part 2. We also, in August, we are launching our Rewrite Now program. So we talked about this a little bit. We decided we wanted to get more people into it. So we kind of put it on hiatus for a moment. It's coming back. We are doing it in August. So if you want to go to hollywoodgatekeepers.com, Rewrite Now, you can join that program. And we'll start that in August. We'll do more things like that. I'm also going to be diving into some AI. And so I'm going to show people kind of how to use AI with rewriting, but how to manage AI and the human connection, just like we did here. We're going to talk about the structure, the tactical, technical things, and the human connection, and how do we become better humans while we do all of this. So I hope that makes sense. Let me see your questions if you have any. Yeah. So currently tendonitis, right hand out of control. So that's definitely a challenging situation. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I don't love that you have that, obviously, but I do love that you're willing to share it. And so it's definitely the thing that you can control about it. Anytime we have a medical diagnosis, like look at how you're thinking of it, look at how the thoughts that you're thinking about it. And I just got licensed as a trainer of Louise Hay, and she talks about the mind body connection. And so the right side is kind of your power. You said right hand, right? Yeah. Right side is your kind of power side, your masculine side, your taking action side. So the more you can like have thoughts about surrendering into any kind of action that you're taking. I don't know hands, right? So her training gets very detailed into, I would definitely look her up and look at her trainings, get really detailed into the mind body connection. Now, of course, see a doctor, do all the things, but do whatever it is that you believe in that you think will help you feel better. But also like learning how to really hear your thoughts about it, to see how are you talking about it? How are you adding to the limitations that it's already giving you? So it's giving you some limitations, and that it's a right hand out of control. How out of control is it? So being able to kind of tell yourself how, if it feels really out of control, is it totally out of control? Or are there some things you can do? Can you start to allow your brain to see some progress, or see some movements that you can do, or see some comparison things, or do the phantom mirror exercises, or that kind of thing, where you put your good hand against a mirror and then you pretend that it's your right hand. It's really interesting what that does. Our brains they're easy to trick. They are. So you can start kind of doing things to kind of help you through it. I hope that makes sense. I'm so glad. Things that you're so excited for it. I love it. Yeah. Yeah. If you don't like the effect, don't produce the cause. Yeah. And that's definitely a way to think about it. If you're not liking what you're doing, then think about what you're doing to get there. But I also want to always, always, always come from a place of, this is never an excuse to beat yourself up either. Like, as we learn about this, and as we have a diagnosis of some kind, or something happens, or we realize this situation, what the heck? And sometimes you can be in a situation and be like, oh, this old chestnut, where it'd be like, I thought I was through this, but here I'm manifesting it again with someone new, because this is a pattern that I'm super aware of. So the more that we can kind of, love yourself through it and be like, we are always, I think, doing the best we can with the resources we have, right? It is interesting, right? The correlation is so interesting. Thanks, Dee. I think it's really great. Yeah. So yes, this will live on our YouTube channel. They're asking for a replay so you can watch the whole thing. But yeah, so it's just, we're about done. I just wanted to share these transitions. When I do these kind of live impromptu, I try to keep it to half an hour, not more than an hour for sure. But I just wanted to I was thinking about our transitions. I was thinking about how we're doing the reboot day, and we're also doing rewrite now. And so if you look on this channel, if you just scroll through the description of this video, you'll see the links there where you can join the reboot day if you want to do that. You can join rewrite now if you want to do that. You can look at other videos on this channel. Hooray. And just be part of our world. Let us know. Send us emails if you have any questions. team@hollywoodgatekeepers.com. We are here for you. I love doing these little impromptu sessions. I love that you guys are interested in it and that you're here. Really, really fun. So have a beautiful, lovely day. Think your thoughts, feel your feelings, take some action, get the results. You can do this. All right, you guys, we'll talk to you soon. Take care.